and to share today with you about the Christian perspective of palliative care, and also to share a bit with you what I'm living in Jerusalem, in the St. Louis French Hospital, which you see here. For those who had the chance to come to Jerusalem, you may know the house. St. Louis Hospital is a hospital for people who pass with us the last period of their lives. It's not a real hospice. It's more kind of a place for chronically ill patients and hospice patients. So we have patients who live with us for just 1 hour, 1 day, and pass away then. But we also have people who live with us for up to 21 years. We have coma patients who are very, very long time with us in this last period of their lives. And we are a Catholic monastery. We have a kosher kitchen and a monastery rabbi. And we receive patients really of all the different traditions who live in Jerusalem. We have 60 beds and are integrated in the Israeli health system. We are a house on the border. We are located in Jerusalem exactly on the political border between the more Arabic East Jerusalem and the more Jewish West Jerusalem. And we are also on this border between the different populations, and because of the patients we nurse, we are on the border between life and death. We receive people from all political groups and faith groups, and something quite special for Jerusalem, but very normal for palliative care, we all get on very well together, from wherever we come, whatever faith we have. And I think also this experience here of this Congress shows us that palliative care doesn't know any borders. For us in Jerusalem, it's a gift of the patient to us. And at the same time, in a country where Christians are a minority of only 2%, I think it's a quite strong witness to the Christian faith and the Christian service of love and charity. And this I would like to share with you now a bit. And I would like to start with the first point of the Christian perspective, that I think that really the palliative care is an expression of the Christian faith in the dignity of life. Cicely Saunders said, "You matter because you are, and you matter to the end of your life. We will do all we can, not only to help you die peacefully, but also to live until you die." The Christian faith, as also the Jewish and Muslim faith, teach us that life is a gift of God, that each human being is created in the image and likeness of God. And this dignity is independent from my health, is independent from my capacities. God gives freedom and autonomy, but this freedom and autonomy does not include the right to decide to end the life of another person, and not even to end my own life. Active euthanasia, assisted suicide, we already touched this subject yesterday, are prohibited in Christianity and in all the 3 monotheistic religions. Many times, when a terminally ill patient asks for euthanasia, in reality there is another message hidden behind this request. In a way, he tells me, I cannot live as I live now. I cannot live with this suffering. And palliative care, by treating the symptoms and restoring quality of life, is really a mean to help people to stop to ask for euthanasia. I think all of us know this who work with patients, how people stop asking for euthanasia when they receive good palliative care. Our belief in the dignity of man, who is created in God's image and likeness, urge us to protect life and to prolong life, and urge us also to improve the quality of life. And the key ethical question is, which of these 2 values has priority when they come into conflict? Is it the length of life, prolongation of life, or is it the quality of life? Do we have to do everything possible in modern medicine to live as long as possible? Are we allowed to decide for ourselves and for others to refrain from therapy or to stop therapy, as we do it in palliative care? And we discuss this point a lot in our ethic committee, which is also composed of Jewish, Christian, and Muslim members. And I can tell you that in all the three religions, we meet people who decide out of their faith to give priority to prolonging of life. And in the same religions, we meet people who decide out of their faith to give priority to quality of life. The official voices of Christianity, and I would like to give you citations from the Orthodox and the Catholic Church, have pronounced themselves very clearly for the approach of palliative care, for the approach which gives priority to the quality of life for terminally ill patients. Pope Jean Paul II, he allows explicitly the use of pain medication even in cases that they may shorten the life. He writes, "In such a case, use of painkillers and sedatives, death is not willing or sought, even though for reasonable motives one runs the risk of it. There is simply a desire to ease pain effectively by using the analgesics which pain medicine provides." And the Orthodox Church of America says about the quality of life in hospice and palliative care, "It should be the goal of both the family and the designated caregivers to ensure as best as they can that the final days of a terminally ill person are spent reasonably free of anxiety, tranquil, and aware to the extent possible. Integral to maintaining this type of condition is the administration of pain medication." And explicitly, the Orthodox Church of America states that it is not indicated to prolong life of terminally ill patients by artificial means. They say, "Artificial life support methodologies, when chronically used on a terminally ill and dying patient, only serve to delay and prolong the dying process. The decision to remove all life support and to let a loved one pass into God's hands, while very difficult and emotional, is necessary in order to allow the person to make his or her transition from this world to the next." This text gives us another aspect of the Christian perspective to palliative care. The Christian faith does not only allow us to give priority to the quality of life for terminally ill patients, it even urges us to do so. In end-of-life situations, death is not anymore an enemy to be fought. Death becomes a friend to be welcomed. And St. Francis, he praises God. He praises God in his Canticle of the Creatures for our sister death. Or, as it said in the Umbrian dialect of the Italian language, per la sora nostra morte corporale. Death is the end of earthly life and the beginning of a new life in the coming world. So I must say that for myself and for most of the colleagues I work with, our faith gives us really a great motivation to work in palliative care. And still, as I said already in the beginning, there are some people who, out of the same faith traditions, will oppose palliative care. And this really, I see it in all faith traditions. There is Christian who says, "I would like, after 7 years of coma, resuscitation for my father because I'm a Christian priest and my faith tells me this." There is Muslim lady who said, "After 20 years of coma, I would like resuscitation for my husband if his heart stops, because otherwise my family will tell me that I killed my husband." And there is Jewish family who tells, even if resuscitation procedures prolong life only for 5 minutes, you have to do it. So if all these kind of questions, and really the border between somebody who wants to live palliative care and somebody who wants to live prolonging of life, it's not a border who goes in between the religions. You cannot say this religion is like this and the other one like this. It's a border who goes between people, whatever faith traditions they have. This is a past thing we could discuss long time. I won't do this now, of course. So, wait, I would come to a second point. I spoke about faith, the Christian faith, and I would like to say that palliative care for me is a witness of love. Your lives may be the only gospel your listeners will ever read, said Don Helder Camara. And love is really the key word of Christian ethics. Jesus insists on the practice of love. He goes himself around doing good, curing the sick. And he even goes as far as identifying himself with the one who is sick. What you do to the least of my brothers, you do to me. And so all throughout history, these words of Jesus and the example of Jesus urged Christians to work in health care and also to work in palliative care. And in some languages, the word sister means nurse and nun. And in Hebrew, if you put in Google Translator nurse, you have one of the translation into Hebrew, which is Achot Rachmania, merciful sister. In palliative care, we are witnesses to the value and dignity of life, to the Christian way of love, and also to the hope of the fullness of life in this world and for eternal life. We are called to respect the life story of each patient, to accompany him and her on his and her way, and to touch the presence of God in the life of each person. As a Christian, I believe in the presence of God in each human being, independently from his or her religion, independently from the state of consciousness. And in Jerusalem, our hospital is highly respected for the quality of medical care and also the human quality of care. And there are people who have had no contact at all with Christians, don't know anything about Christian faith, but they feel that there is a presence of love and service. And maybe they can recognize in it also the presence of God. Modern man listens more willingly to witnesses than to teachers, said Pope Paul VI. And if he does listen to teachers, it's because they are witnesses. This sentence applies not only to the modern world of his time, but also to the multicultural and multi-religious world we live in. And I am sure that interreligious dialogue we live in the healthcare institutions is much more fruitful than interreligious dialogue we can live in dialogue institutes. Dialogue is not only sitting around the table looking to each other, it's much more looking together in a common direction. We share a common aim in healthcare, the well-being of the patient, the respect of his and her decisions concerning the end of life and concerning his life as a whole. And I think also palliative care is a seed of hope. Thornton Wilder writes in his book, The Bridge of St. Louis Ray, there is a land of the living and a land of the dead, and the bridge is love. The only survival, the only meaning. Palliative care allows the patient to live the last weeks and days of the earthly life as a valuable time in which he receives relief of suffering, may they be on the physical level, psychological level, spiritual level, or social level. He can find peace, pass away into the coming world in peace. Some dying persons, they say that the few days they passed in a hospice were the best days of their life because they lived in an atmosphere of love and respect which allowed them to be finally truly themselves and to accept themselves with their lights and shadows. For us in Jerusalem, this can be very concrete as people live their life in an atmosphere of conflict and war, and suddenly they realize that they all face the same death, And the daughter of a lady who died with us told me after, you know, my mother always hated the Arabs, but not at the end. Because the best nurse here is Adel. And Adel is a Palestinian Muslim colleague. So sometimes this gift of the patients we receive, we can also give it back to them to help them really to find peace in the concluding of their life. Our differences are meant to enrich each other. And this is not only the case for feasts, because with having 3 religions in the house, we have 3 times the number of parties than other houses. Our differences really should enrich each other, and borders are meant to become bridges. And I would like to conclude with one story which very much touched me, and so I really would love to share it with you. It was one of the Orthodox Jewish patients who was expecting the coming of the Messiah. And he was expecting it very, very strongly because he said it about 100 times a day. The Messiah will come. Do you know he will come? This year he will come. And when he passed away for a palliative care patient relatively suddenly, his wife was not there because she wouldn't come on Saturdays, on Shabbat day. So we went to her house the day after to tell her a bit about the last day of her husband. And she said to us, you know, it doesn't matter that I was not there when my husband died, because my husband died in the family. You became his family. And you know how important it was for my husband to wait for the Messiah. And is not this the time of the Messiah, when people of different religions and nations live together in peace? By the fact that my husband could live the last time of his life in your hospital, his hope was at least a little bit fulfilled. I believe that wherever in this world we live palliative care, the kingdom of God is already in our midst. As Thornton Wilder said, there is a land of the living and a land of the dead, and the bridge is love.